Hi guys, welcome to another episode of The Eventful Life. Thank you so much for all of your feedback. It really helps, guys, because I know you're watching, but I need to hear from you and hear what is resonating with you, what you're enjoying, what nuggets you're picking up, and also just what things have really helped you already from some of the amazing women that I've already brought to you on the Eventful Life TV series. Well, of course, we've got another episode here and another fabulous womanpreneur who is ready to share her story with you about how she's been able to build a wonderful business here. So today I'm actually hanging out with Julie.
Hello.
Hello. Here at the Hedge studio where she makes all of her magic happen. And I'm excited to be with her so that she can share a little bit about how she does what she does here in the studio and share a little bit about her journey as to how she got started and where she's headed next, right? Because that's always what we want to know, like what's next. So Julie, tell us a little bit about how you got started here, and thank you for having me today.
Oh, thanks for coming. It's so great. It's always great to connect with other women in the community doing cool things, so I really appreciate it. I got started after I went to art school. I'm kind of like, what do you do with that? Right. You go to art school, you're like, oh no.
What's next?
So I kind of struggled a little for a couple years here and there, like how am I going to apply this to my life and how am I going to create a niche for myself? You know, there's artistic careers are few and far between.
Yes.
So really it came down to like, what can I do to create this space for myself in this community that I really want to bring something different to?
Right, because you grew up here, right?
I grew up here, and there's some of us that are like, we're staying, we're going to make it cool, like we're going to do cool things.
I love that.
So so that's kind of where it all started is how do I bring this into my life? And I come from a long line of family businesses here. So both my grandparents, my grandmas, you know, I've got a lot of strong women in my life that have had their own businesses. So I was kind of doomed to have my own business. From the beginning.
I love the fact you're like, hey, that was my path.
It just was. And it's worked out. So
because here we are. And I will have to show you, I'll definitely do a pan around, but I'll have to show you the amazingness here in her studio. When I walked in, I was like, okay, you clearly have a gene that I don't have because she has some of the most amazing stuff from cutouts to stationery. We're going to show you a little bit here in a minute, but yes, you have to see it all.
Thank you.
Yes. So once you decided like this is the route you wanted to go as far as being a business owner, I mean, that's a huge decision to make. So walk us through a little bit of the process of the mindset like that you had to have when you decided like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'm kind of that like sink or swim person. So I thought about it and thought about how do I really transform what I do and what I learned in art school as a printmaker. How do I make that into something kind of sustainable? So probably went about it the wrong way because I bought a building and then I was like, oh, okay, gotta make this work, you know. Then it was literally like sink or swim. So that though, I thrive in that kind of environment where there is pressure with that.
Jump right in.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, I started it thinking I was going to have like a cooperative space where people could come in and use the equipment and like further their artistic careers here. And that quickly wasn't paying the bills. Yeah, you know, I'm like, So then just like being able to pivot and kind of transition into like, okay, now I guess I could provide this kind of old school printing as a service. So that kind of started, and then that's how I worked my way into doing weddings and having kind of event clients. And then it has afforded me the opportunity to continue my artwork, which is really great now. So really cool. Took a couple years to get there, but so it's been nice.
Awesome. I like the fact that, just a couple of things I want to point out, you know, that she mentioned that, hey, she jumped right in. I think as women, sometimes we overthink things.
Definitely.
I've seen my male counterparts like literally just, they don't have a plan or anything. They just are like, hey, I'm doing it and it's done. Whereas we take more time sometimes than we have to or should to try to perfect it or to try to convince ourselves whether we're ready for it or not. So I love the fact that you're just like, hey, sink or swim, I'm doing this, right? That's a great nugget. And then the second thing that you said was pivoting, right? So you figured out very quickly, like, okay, this approach isn't working.
Yeah.
So I've got to figure out a plan B. And I think that is natural in business. It may not feel natural. It may feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I think that's natural in business to figure out that, hey, I've got to shift because this approach or what I thought was going to work isn't working.
Right, right. It's really funny. When I purchased this building just a couple years ago, I had to rewrite my business plan, you know, which was really kind of good to do after 4 years of having a business because it had changed so much.
Significantly,
so looking back at that first one to the most recent one, I'm like, oh my God,
like
it's completely different. And in a good way. And it's something that I really enjoy doing, but yeah, being able to kind of, like you said, pivoting, figuring out what works, I feel like that's how you're able to sustain.
Exactly. That's awesome. And I like the fact that you compared your day one business plan to like...
It was hilarious. Like, I'm like, what was I thinking?
Hey, we all grow.
You know,
That's what this journey is all about, right? So you mentioned some of the things that you do in the studio, like... some of the stationery and things like that. So let's talk about like what are some of your main like niche things that you produce here in the studio?
So I do letterpress printing, which are done on printing presses all from the 1800s. And I really have like a love for fine papers and fine materials. And the printing press
looks like old school.
Oh yeah,
like
it's all handmade, and the printing press leaves this really beautiful kind of impression in the paper. So I'll show you.
Oh wow!
Right? Yeah. So
gorgeous.
It's a piece of copper that was debossed on the press. So yeah, I know it's kind of hard to see, but
it's amazing.
Really fun, like super unique things. And I love my clients because they always come in and they might have like a roundabout idea, but we get to play back and forth together. And that's what really keeps this kind of a service like something artistic for me and fun, and making sure that I reach those clients rather than someone that's just like, I want to go online to paper source. And you know, kind of that's a little bit of a struggle sometimes, but I feel like every year it gets a little easier to get the right people.
Well, that's again, I think that's something that is important to learn, that not everybody, and we just talked about this, right? Before we actually started talking to you guys, we talked about how, you know, when you're first starting out, you are literally just like, I will take anybody, everybody, because you're just trying to get the business. But I think you start to learn over the years, like you just said, like, okay, there are certain people who are going to be uniquely attracted to what I do because they see the value in it and they see that that's the type of service that they want, right? Somebody with the mindset of, oh, I'm going to go online and order through Minted is going to have a different thought process about things than somebody who's like, I want something particular, unique, you know, in a box. I want it hand carved, like letterpress. I think that whole mindset is just completely different.
It definitely is. I feel like too, I mean, one thing that's really helped is keeping records through the last however many years, like almost 7 years now. And I can look back and see, like year 1 and year 2, I was spending like the bulk of my time with people who wanted things they could go online to buy. So it was like the most time, but the least amount of income on that. And I'm like, why don't I just cut that out? Because I can gear my time toward this and it's actually bringing a bigger return. So, but it's really hard to do that because I feel like as women, we want to say yes to everyone. We want to please everyone. And I still have that where someone walks in the door, I'm like, I want to help you, but it's going to just drain my time.
Yes, that's the nurturers. Yes. We're like, I want to help. How can I help? You know, I think we all do it, and until you realize, like, I can't do that.
Yeah, when you're like, I don't feel good because I'm tired. Yeah, then it becomes a thing.
Exactly.
But,
exactly. That's good. So 7 years, right? 7 years, guys. That's nothing to sneeze at, right? How do you feel like? I mean, and we just touched a little bit on it with understanding your client. But what are some other things you feel like have really attributed to you still being, still having your doors open 7 years later? Because, I mean, that's not easy.
Yeah. There was a recession right at the beginning.
Right.
I'm like, again, I started my business in the recession, buy a building, like that, bad. But probably good that I wasn't smart enough to realize that those were bad things to do. I'm like, everything's so cheap right now. And yeah.
You're smart. You just like taking risks.
My risk is very high.
Risk tolerance.
It is. I really think, again, the pivoting, like being able to kind of say, okay, this is something that maybe is going out of style or out of kind of vogue right now. And so I need to find another little niche. And so in those maybe even the last 3 or 4 years, I've started making a lot of jewelry, and it's using the equipment that I still use to make these other pieces, just in a different way. Yeah, and that's really fun.
Yeah.
Right. So during that Christmas time where wedding season or event season kind of dies off a little bit, I can kind of pick up some holiday things and some gifts that I'm making.
I love that. I got to show some of these earrings. So you guys probably see behind us, there's a little tree here, like Christmas tree. And she's got earrings hanging as ornaments, which I think is fabulous.
The best ornaments, right?
Yes, but these are so adorable. Again, super unique, different, right? So, so I love the way, and I love the fact that, like you said, you use like stuff that you already have to make these, but it's just being used in a different way.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think too, community involvement in a place where we are now, which is Fort Wayne, Indiana.
I love how she said that.
Yes. We talked about it's a big, small town, but I really think it's important to be engage with the neighborhood that you're in. So the building that I'm in right now is in an area where I connect with my neighbors. We collaborate on different things together and events, which is really fun, and really try to provide something to the neighborhood that is valuable. And then the neighborhood
like back to the neighborhood.
Then they embrace you, and they kind of I feel like that's really important. That's what I look at too when I'm shopping. Like, does this business really invest in their community?
Totally agree.
Makes so much of a difference to me.
Too. I think our civic responsibility as business owners is huge. It's important because we essentially are the backbone of the community.
Definitely.
And like you said, when you support the community then gives back.
It's funny too, because sometimes you're like, oh gosh, like this is so much time or so much money out or whatever. But everything, I feel like every dollar I've ever put into the community has come back tenfold. So it doesn't show like right away, but
it's
it's
tit for tat.
Yeah, definitely like a thing. Yeah,
that's awesome.
They come around.
That's awesome. Like, you better come here.
Come here. Support me. Yes.
Oh gosh. So let's shift gears and talk a little bit about just specifically being a woman in business. As we all know, being a woman in business can be unique. There are specific challenges or things that we come up against that are specific to being a woman in business versus just any business owner. Let's talk about like any experiences that you've had here in the community that just have revealed to you like, okay, this is a little bit different because I am a woman in business and I'm gonna have to kind of figure out a way to maneuver this.
Definitely. I think the biggest thing is being in a smaller, conservative-minded community. That can be tough. And I'm an artistic business, too. So I'm like, double whammy. I'm a woman and I'm an artist. Like, people here are like, what is she doing?
Take me seriously.
So that can be really tough to kind of break through some of those mindsets of, this is what things are supposed to be, and this is who's supposed to be doing them. It's also kind of fun. The kinds of machines I use and the printing I do has never been a woman thing, a female thing. It was always a male-dominated field.
Interesting.
And so you're running heavy equipment, which has also high risk factor of, all sorts of things. But it's been really fun to connect with like these older men who used to do that as like journeyman printers, and they come in and they're so cute and they're so excited to see that somebody else just loves it. That's been a kind of fun thing where I'm like, I don't feel like being a woman has affected that negatively at all.
Sure, it's actually made some relevancy.
It's kind of, there's been like a generational gap that's kind of like bridged a little bit, which is really fun.
That's
but
great.
I think community-wise and development-wise, networking is always tough here.
Sure.
I mean, you walk into a place and you're the only woman there. I mean, and that can be a little intimidating. And they call you honey and sweetie.
I hate those.
I know. But you're like, I'm just gonna be that person to be that.
Swallow that pill.
It's really hard to be the bigger person. Yeah. So I think
That's
just trying to change that and shift that has been really difficult. But on this block, there are 2 other female businesses. In the block south of me, 3 female businesses. So we kind of have our own little group together. So we kind of go in as a united front to things, which is so helpful.
Exactly.
Connecting with other women really. Girls, we got our backs,
Exactly.
right? Like
And I was gonna say, it also helps because it's showing that there's representation, within the community, especially as you see more women in business start to pop up as business owners.
Definitely.
Then hopefully it kind of levels the
playing field. Gets it. And we talked about being inclusive and having more diversity. This area is really it's tough for that. I think it's changing, but it's changing very slowly. So we're really trying to ruffle some feathers with that.
Hey, I'm all about ruffling the feathers. Okay?
Yeah, it's good. It's good for them, right?
It is good. Change is good, and it's gonna happen regardless, right?
Yeah, you better be on board.
Exactly. So that's good. So tell us what's next for the Hedge Studio. What's next for Julie? Like, where do you see yourself? What are your goals for like 2020?
I hired someone this past year, which is like the big step for me because I'm all about sustainability, like we talked about, and I didn't just want to have someone who I was going to have to make them leave soon. I wanted to be able to know that I could really take someone on. So that's been really fun, and that's kind of opened up. I didn't realize, I'm like, I should have hired someone like 4 years ago. Oh my God, I have so much more time to be creative and
to do the things you like to do.
Like trusting handing off some tasks has been a really big struggle for me, but I plan on continuing to do that in 2020. And like I said, it's allowed more time to kind of reach out to some more like shows and markets that I'd like to do in our area. We're really close to Chicago and Detroit, and so I sell in those 2 places. I'm like, I could go there more often. So so
expanding
the market, just having the freedom to kind of leave my building to do those things is a big deal.
My building. Like, I actually want to go see people out.
I need to leave.
Yes. I love that. That's good. And I think it's great that you recognize that. I always talk about like awareness, just knowing what you need, what moves you need to make in order to to meet those goals is super important. So, and then you mentioned expanding into different markets. So you also are online, correct?
I am.
All right. So these wonderful earrings that I just showed you and the stationery that I just showed you can actually be ordered from Julie in the Hedge Studio online. I'll have her give you all of her contact information just here in a bit. But as we wrap up, I know that some of our viewers and those who are out there, listening, I know we have women who are thinking about starting a business, who are maybe already in business. What piece of advice, what one piece of advice would you leave with them to just help them, wherever they are in their journey?
Yeah, I think no matter what kind of a business you're starting, being creative about how to apply it is really, really important. And that translates to any kind of business. So that can be tough, but being open to be able to change things a little bit and play with things and see like, okay, did this work for this amount of time? Keeping records of that is so important.
I love that part that you said about just how you kept records so that you have something to go back and actually see the results.
Right, or else you trick yourself. Like I've done things too where I'm like, I want this to work so bad. And I'm like, it's working. And then I look at the records, I'm like, that did not work. Like
numbers don't lie.
Yeah, numbers don't lie. So keeping records, and then just being like, I feel like really sticking with it. Like there are days, I mean, even now we've talked about after almost 7 years, I still have those times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like the numbers look a little different this month than they have in the previous years. Like it's a little scary, but just keep doing what you're doing, stick with it, and that can be really, really tough.
Really tough. Yeah, it can. But like you said, sticking with it, the consistency, sticking it out, affirming yourself that, hey, you're going to have rough months, maybe even quarters, but that, you look at, like she said, the track record of what you're doing, and then make those changes so that you can see that those results change, I think are huge. So
and connect with others too. I feel like, especially as women, like since networking things can be a little one-sided. It's really great to like find people in the community that you're serving and kind of connect with those people that you can like be each other's cheerleaders sometimes. That's super important, or talk each other off the ledge.
Yes, we have those days where like, why am I doing this again? They'll remind you, like, well, this was why you said you love it.
They will. It's so great, and then you get to remind them. So it's all definitely give and take for sure.
That's good. Well, Julie, let them know, how can they find you? How can they connect with you? As well as order, if they do want to order anything online, where can they find you at?
So my website is thehedgestudios.com. Okay. I'm on Instagram. You can buy from Instagram too. Now, which is great. Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. It's great. And it's all at the Hedge Studios. So
the Hedge
super
Studios.
Simple. Yes.
Awesome. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed our Eventful Life episode today with Julie and the Hedge Studio. She shared some wonderful nuggets just about being a woman in business, her journey, some things that you can take away about, sustainability, really understanding how to track what you are doing so that you know that it is effective and not tricking yourself into thinking it's effective. So those were both great nuggets. And lastly, building your community, your civic responsibility to go out here and give back to the community that you are sowing the seed into. So I just love it all. Thank you, Julie, for taking the time. I so appreciate you. And thank you guys for continuing to tune in. Just remember that you can have it all, but on your time and on your terms. We'll see you on the next episode, okay? Thanks, guys.